Hello, and welcome back to the Source One podcast. Each year, the Institute for Supply Management publishes its 30 Under 30 list. Recognizing supply management's rising stars, it provides a snapshot of procurement excellence and an example for the next generation of professionals. This year's list features a pair of Source One consultants, Kaitlyn Krigbaum and Elizabeth Kapoor. I sat down with both winners to discuss their professional journeys, their hopes for the future, and their take on what it means to excel in supply chain management. Here's my conversation with Kaitlyn. Enjoy. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Source One podcast. ISM recently announced the winners of its 30 Under 30 Supply Chain Rising Stars, and I'm happy to announce that Source One got not one but two spots on this year's list. I'm here with one of those folks, our consultant, Kaitlyn Krigbaum. How's it going, Kaitlyn?
Going really great. Thanks for having me, Bennett.
Hey, yeah, no problem. So if we could jump right into it, the theme for this year's ISM conference is Spark. I'm hoping you could speak to a few sparks from earlier in your career in supply management. When did you first determine that this was the field for you?
That's a great question, and interestingly enough, I don't think I had a epiphany type moment or really a traditional career path at all by any means. I think that early on in my career, upon graduating from college, I found myself as a second generation mental health professional and was supporting the development and execution of client treatment plans in that counseling capacity. And after some time in that field, I grew a little bit more interested in transferring that skill set, transferring my ability to build trusting relationships and achievable objectives from more of the consulting environment into more of a business environment, and trying to find a way to employ that empathy and advocacy in that setting. So had actually transitioned into more of a recruitment-focused role, and eventually kind of found that consulting was sort of a dream career. Was able to parlay the skill sets that I had built upon, as well as some of the things that I think I innately possess. The curiosity and the drive to solve challenges and be solutions focused. So sort of found my way into the function and have never left.
Awesome. And is there a key milestone that sticks out from your time in the consulting space that's especially formative? Maybe something that helped this spark become a flame?
So I think that probably started in the recruitment portion of my career. So I was actually recruiting within the supply management function. I was placing people in procurement and strategic sourcing type of roles. And, one of the things that I was always told was that I started to get good at asking the question behind the question. And so, having heard that enough times, I think that sort of served as sort of that formative moment where it was like, okay, well, I think consulting within a procurement environment is where I'm meant to be, to sort of do those discovery calls and figure out those strategies based on doing those deep dives and having that sort of insatiable curiosity.
Could you share a piece of advice or a piece of wisdom you received early on that maybe helped shape your approach to your work with Source One?
Really, coming out of college, my background was psychology. It was English. I always felt like I sort of geared more towards the creative realm as opposed to that highly analytical space where, all I could think about were spreadsheeting and, interpreting data. And so I sort of had this subconsciously limiting belief that I wouldn't do well in that type of an environment. And I had a former mentor at one point kind of talk to me about that and say, sometimes it's actually that experience impedes creativity. And you need somebody who has sort of that out-of-box ability to think through something strategically without, to be able to see a solution that wasn't readily available, wasn't on the table. And I think truthfully, that advice kind of helped give me that confidence to pursue a career in business.
And another area where you've offered some support is as a member of our communications team, kind of working alongside me. And I think you and I both would agree that we've often written a lot about how the face and shape of procurement is changing. And I expect you've, as a provider in the space, witnessed some of those changes and played a part in bringing them about. I'm wondering, how would you say the space has evolved throughout your time in it?
Sure. So honestly, this is one of the things I get most excited to talk about is sort of this procurement evolution. And it's not a topic that's gone dormant. It's something that continues to be sort of in vogue and ever-changing, as it should be. That's really the definition of evolution. But I would say in terms of the space evolving and how I've seen that happen, I think most notably it's really in the humanization of the function. At one time in history, it may have been more of a widely acceptable and often employed tactic to sort of beat down suppliers and deploy these strong arm tactics to accomplish results and accomplish savings. Whereas today, I truly think there's been a sort of paradigm shift and transition where we're seeing understanding the needs and wants of our suppliers and pushing for more of that bi-directional win-win type scenario, encouraging a more collaborative approach. Typically yields stronger, less transactional relationships and typically leads to the greater, more sustainable results overall. So I'm interested in seeing how that humanization of the function continues to evolve, especially as we continue to see more evolving technology in the space as well.
I'm interested, what do you think is bringing about some of these changes? Do you think it's an influx of professionals like yourself who come into the procurement world with a different perspective?
I think that's a lot of it, yes. I think it's a matter of promoting sort of the diversity of thought based on individual differences and experiences. Procurement, especially within the last couple of years, has really been able to gain a seat at that C-suite table, and I think that we're getting the exposure that we need even internally. So you have folks from finance or HR, other important integral functions internally who are saying, procurement seems interesting. Maybe that's something that I should try out. And you even have companies who are starting to structure their organization so that people can sort of do the approach where they work within each of those functions in sort of a phased approach. So I think being able to bring in people from different backgrounds, different experience is sort of elevating the function and allowing us to drive a lot of those strategic changes overall.
And how have those changes helped change what it means to be a rising star in procurement? What does a new, more humanized function mean for the set of skills that an effective procurement professional has to call on?
Yeah, so I think a rising star in procurement nowadays, it really means you have just as high of an EQ as you do an IQ or the subject matter expertise. I think at one point in time, maybe that was enough, was to be the expert in your space and to just know everything front and back. And now I don't think that's enough. I think that's only one element of it. I think it's also having that emotional intelligence and being able to assess situations, and even sometimes with stakeholder groups. I think oftentimes it can be working with them to try to shift the approach from having sort of a biased intuition approach to evaluating their category to being more fact-based decision making. And a lot of that involves the people component. So I think in today's day and age, a rising star has that high IQ, high EQ, and they're both evaluated in tandem.
And how do you see the definition of procurement excellence continuing to shift over the next several years? Do you see maybe that EQ becoming even more important?
I do, absolutely. You see it even in the unique titles that are being created. Now, some HR folks are being called happiness managers, or you're seeing roles that are, innovation director, and maybe that's ethereal and not well established in terms of what that means, but I see that sort of mentality starting to permeate procurement as well. So I think sort of the typical roles that you see from a title standpoint are going to start blurring. I think there's going to be a unique component of data management and what that means, and project management and people management. I think all of that is going to continue to grow and manifest itself within the function over the next several years.
So it's a particularly exciting time to be discussing the future of procurement and its professionals. 2020 is right around the corner, and with it, we're going to see what we've considered the future for so long. There's been so many white papers, so many ebooks about what does procurement in 2020 mean, what does procurement in 2020 look like, and I'm interested in learning how you would advise a professional who's just getting started during this kind of potentially epochal period. How can an emerging professional set themselves apart and start to mature into a rising star?
So I think that's a really important concept, especially for the fact that, again, procurement is getting more traction. People are starting to realize that this is even something that they can major in, right? There's so many more supply management programs within universities. So I think that it's really important that emerging professionals start thinking about this early on. It's no longer something that just organically evolves over time. I think it's much more intentional. So I think the first advice I give anybody who is sort of an emerging professional, regardless of their career, but especially if they're heading into more of a supply management, procurement-focused career path, would be to be intentional about your career growth and where you want to take it. That may change a million times over the course of their overall career, but I think having sort of that North Star to guide their career is always helpful. I would also say, and again, this is a topic that's in vogue, and the importance of developing a really strong personal brand. So getting involved within the function, and that means, potentially getting involved in committees. I sit on the ISM Chicago Marketing Committee. I'm the chair for them. That gives you great exposure to other professionals and perspectives. Getting involved internally with your organization, whether that's helping with the intern programs or just doing some shadowing of folks internally. And I guess that's also a great segue. I think identifying a mentor early on and committing to learning as much as you can from them is really important. So take that initiative, develop that personal brand, and identify a mentor. I think that really will set emerging professionals apart as they continue to develop into your proverbial rising star.
So obviously the initiative is an important part of that, but what can employers do on their end to help nurture these potential rising stars?
Yeah, so that's a really important concept, and I love seeing that so many companies are willing to embrace this and want to develop those rising stars. I think the one caveat and maybe cautionary tale is that companies may recognize that it's so important to nurture these rising stars, but they first have to take the time to understand what those perspectives are. What is it that they're looking for from a growth plan and career pathing perspective before they start putting together that framework around developing them. It's the same in procurement. I think you can sort of relate it to that as well. So you would never develop a category strategy without first collecting the data to drive from. So it's the same here. If companies start by understanding the needs and the wants of their rising stars and building those training programs or those mentorship programs, I think that's where they can be most successful when it comes to retaining that talent and even attracting new talent.
Well, Kaitlyn, that about wraps it up for my questions. Thanks again for taking the time, and I'll see you in Houston. Congrats again.
Thanks, Bennett. We'll see you soon.
Thanks again for listening to the Source One podcast. Kaitlyn, Elizabeth, and the rest of this year's 30 Under 30 recipients will be formally recognized next month at ISM 2019. We hope to see you there.